We've previously posted about the value of having images, photographs of a site from above, and we've spoken about using Google Earth images and we've also made a relatively recent post about using images from a drone. Here's another example of using an image that's taken from above. This time it comes from aircraft flying a path across sites at around 10,000 feet and then taking an image in that form, scaling it and putting it into GCAD+. As you can see, even at this early stage of development, I think it's worth having a look at how this might look in the final printed version. So I'm going to move to a layout space, an A3 landscape space, and we'll be able to fit the logo in. We might reduce that slightly in size depending on the sheet size that we're going to use, and we can always scale that logo block, title block. But notice that this planting schedule is going to overpower the actual drawing, and I can't see a scale. Let's come back to the model and see if we can deal with that issue. We can usually I wouldn't encourage you to put the image on its own layer. Let's zoom out just a little. Here's the plant schedule, and the scale bar is somewhere here, this one. And I would recommend taking those and moving them well away from the plan. So let's head across here. So they're well away now, and we can come back into our landscape view, and you can see the schedule is no longer showing. So let's get back here, and what I'd be inclined to do, I think, is put a north point in here. This is a block called 10 meter scale bar number 3. It's one of our standard ones, but I'd be inclined to put a north point here as well. But to illustrate how to deal in a layout, what I would suggest we do, and let's come to the layout view, we can get control of the sizing of our plant schedule by simply creating a new floating viewport. We're going to add a viewport, and I recommend just putting it in a position something like that. And I run it across this. If we select here, you can see we've got, and I'll hold that one down and get rid of the border, I think. There's our floating viewport there. So we now have 2 floating viewports in this site. And the reason I make it overlap like that is that now I can select it and double click it and resize it like so and move it. And here and I'll zoom in. I can now set our new floating viewport and display it on the layout. And we'll zoom out. Just for the moment, I'll take off line weights. I'm not quite sure why that was showing in such a heavy way. So once we've done that, we can position the plant schedule wherever we want on the design. It might well come down to an area such as that. If we don't want to see a border, we can change its color to color 255, and so that'll be white on the white background. So you can see we can manage where we see the plant schedule and where we see the scale bar. Need to be careful with the scale bar though. That needs to be at the same scale as the viewport not important in this instance here. We're not worried about scale inside this one, but let's make a new floating viewport, and we want to put the scale bar in here. It's going to be relatively long and thin. Let's zoom in. Now we can jump there and position our scale bar over the scale and bring it down like so. Probably need to do that and display it on the layout. Now, if we select that viewport, notice the view scale is 838 here. We want that to be exactly the same viewport size as the, of course we've hidden that one, haven't we? What's puzzling me is where is our standard floating viewport? We've now found it. And that viewport is a view scale of 200. So in order to be confident here, we need to pick this one and make the view scale 200. And clearly it'll need to be bigger. And we can position it like so. So we'll just double check the display. That looks fairly good. We can pick this one and move it up, and then pick this one here and move it there. So the scaling factor in that floating viewport matches the scaling factor in the main viewport that's controlling everything here. You can see how awkward it is for me to pick it. And I have to resort to a crossing window to make sure and then get rid of that one. So the two critical floating viewports are both at a view scale of 200. But I hope you can see you've got much more flexibility now on laying things out on that sheet. We'd again make the color of this one 255. So I hope that helps give you a little insight into how you might develop this drawing up. And you're basing the drawing on the aerial photograph, and your client may or may not want to see that aerial photograph, but that's perhaps for another day. But we can have another layout where we show the photograph and the developing design on it.